Welcome back, watch people. Now we've got a video coming up in just a moment that is extremely interesting and teaches us a hell of a lot about watch robbery, how it's planned, executed, and potentially how it could be avoided. Now this video ironically involves someone that I know, and that is Mike Wood of the Old Watch Shop. Now Mike is extremely well known and hugely respected within the watch business and within the watch world, particularly when it comes to vintage sports Rolex watches. Mike is one of the go-to individuals if you need something verified when it comes to vintage Rolex sports models. Now Mike and a few of his friends were at the Bonhams watch sale back on the 11th of December 2019, and after they'd been to the auction, they went for a meal where Mike believes that he was probably spotted by one of the individuals involved in this robbery. Now what I'm going to do is, Mike didn't particularly want to appear on camera, and I can totally understand why. But firstly, I'm going to throw up a picture of the watch that Mike had stolen from him on this day, and it's going to pop up on screen now. And it is, of course, an 18 karat pink gold Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, model reference 15300 with a serial number G, that's G for golf, 37699. That's G37699, on a leather strap with a gold deployant clasp. Obviously, if anyone knows where that watch is, Mike will be extremely grateful to know. Now, before we go any further, I want to read out a bit of a statement that Mike sent me that gives us a little bit more background into the robbery before we go into the actual clip, the film clip, where I'm going to add some commentary and my thoughts along the way. So Mike says the full CCTV clip includes footage of him being tailed around Selfridges on Oxford Street in central London for around 20 minutes. In fact, the video is almost 30 minutes long, but we've edited that down to about 5 minutes to capture the most important moments. He feels that the gang of four had already marked him before he entered the store. They clearly had. And he says that he was most likely spotted whilst eating out with a group of friends after the Bonhams watch auction. Now, talking about the robbery itself, Mike said it happened outside the Home House Members Club on Portman Square. After the robbery, he realised his watch had gone. He ran after them into Baker Street, but sadly they had vanished. The following morning, Mike retraced his steps, identifying CCTV cameras which may have caught the action. Selfridges security staff were absolutely amazing. They tracked his movements throughout the store and identified the bad guys, and Selfridges security identified the same group a week later. When they re-entered the store, they called the police. The police came along, arrested and charged two of them with the robbery. Now the two men charged were Algerian nationals, one aged 18 and a legal immigrant who had been in the country for just 6 days prior to the robbery. The second was 23 years old and arrived in the UK in June 2019 on a tourist visa and was working in a Lebanese restaurant in London with a recent caution for shoplifting. The two men were held on remand until they were sentenced on the 27th of August. That's just a few days ago. The 23-year-old pleaded guilty in January. He was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. The 18-year-old only pleaded guilty in August and received 3 years, 2 months prison sentence. Both will be deported at the end of their jail term. We'll see about that one, won't we? The watch was never recovered despite a police search of the given address. And Mike finishes by saying he's very keen to share his story, to encourage people to be more vigilant and to think twice about wearing expensive watches and jewellery in public. Now, what can we take from Mike's words there? Well, firstly, how annoying is it that once again we find illegals stealing watches from innocent members of the public? This just keeps happening time and time and time again. Not only are we let down by the police, we're also let down by our border forces. They say they'll be deported at the end of their rather measly sentences. We'll see about that one, won't we? In my opinion, they almost certainly won't be deported at the end of their sentence. They'll be released into society to commit further crimes. And of course, those 3-year prison sentence we all know means 18 months in prison at the very most. More likely they'll be released after about 15 months in prison. Now luckily Mike wasn't particularly hurt during the incident, but of course you can't always see the mental scars that an attack like that leaves behind. Without further ado, let's get into the actual CCTV itself, and I'm going to offer some commentary during those important moments, and let's see what we can learn from that video. The Metropolitan Police's evidence video that they presented in court. Now we can see Mike now just appearing on the bottom of the screen. He's entering Selfridges there. He's easy to identify because he's carrying an umbrella. Keep your eyes on that umbrella and you will keep your eyes on Mike. Now we can then see two of the suspects following Mike into the store. You can see Mike walking along the corridor there. You can see the umbrella and he's being marked there. And of course he is closely followed by two of his later would-be attackers. They're about, well, they 25-30 yards behind Mike, and then just behind them in about the same distance is a third assailant marked just there. This is how spotters work. You can see Mike coming down the escalators, just having a browse around the store. And then we see two of the robbers closely shadowing Mike, and their accomplice is just behind them on the phone, keeping in contact with the other two guys that you can see. You can see a quick glance there, watching Mike where he's going. Now Mike stops outside the magazine part of the store here, browsing at some magazines. Obviously they're keeping back at this stage. Mike then goes into the magazine department. One of the attackers again walking past, glancing over to check Mike's whereabouts. And then his two accomplices make their way in, keeping a close eye on Mike, making sure they don't lose sight of him. Now here Mike almost throws them off his track a little bit, because he walks up there, turns right, again closely followed by one of the robbers. You can see him there keeping an eye on Mike from a distance, always got his phone in his hand, keeping contact with his accomplices. And Mike is there looking at some bikes, and you can see that the other two guys are in close proximity still as well. But Mike throws a little bit of a curveball here, because he actually doubles back. In just a moment you'll see he comes back from where he came from, which the guys didn't probably expect him to do. But they're not going to lose sight of him. You can see the two following him back, and you can see the third one just making out he's looking at something counter, and he now starts to follow as well. All the time keeping their victim within their range of sight. Of course, you'll note there were 4 attackers and only 2 have been arrested and sentenced. Now Mike enters Oxford Street. He's walking along the road there. There's one of the attackers. He's now going to cross the road and keep an eye. In a minute he's going to cross over and keep an eye on his victim from the other side of the road. And there's the other 2 guys. One of them has now pulled up his hood over his head. The other one wearing what looks like it to be a cap. You can see the other guy has now crossed the road. He's being circled on the other side of the road. Here comes Mike walking past the post box. There's one of them walking past there, because don't forget there are 4 of them. And there are the other 2 keeping in contact, as you can see on the phone, with their friend. And this is where the attack actually takes place. 1, 2, 3. Straight away on Mike, in comes the 4th guy. You can see they've got their hand over Mike's mouth and are manhandling him very roughly, and off they go. At this stage, Mike didn't realise that his watch had actually gone. You'll see him in a minute. Look at his wrist. There you go. He looks at his wrist, and it's now dawned on him that the watch has gone. Mike gives chase, but they're gone. So that's basically how these guys work. They work in a team, a group of 2, 3, 4 people, and they are quite clever at what they do. It's almost like a military style operation. It's planned and executed perfectly. I just want to finish really with the comment that again, I'm sorry, it's about the police. You know, all this is work that should have been done by the police, not Selfridges security department. The police should have gone, seized that CCTV and analysed it themselves, which would have led to the arrest and conviction probably of all 4 of the gentlemen concerned rather than just 2. But as usual, it's left to the private individual that had been attacked and then someone else to put all this evidence together for the police, for them to get their act together. This is what we face, watch people. Not the greatest or the brightest of videos again, I'm afraid, but it is what it is. Once again, I'll pop those details of the watch up on screen. On Audemars Piguet 18 karat gold Royal Oak offshore, model reference number 15300, serial number G37699. If anyone knows the whereabouts of that watch, I'm sure Mike would be extremely grateful. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll speak again soon.